The morning air inside Kepler Station smelled like recycled oxygen and cleaning solution. Sarah Chen walked through the bright hallways with her coffee mug in hand. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. She liked the early morning shift. Most of the station was still quiet. Only the night workers were finishing up and the day crew was just starting to arrive. Sarah reached the door to the Predator observation wing. She pressed her hand against the scanner. The door opened with a hiss. Inside, the lights were dim. The predator species they studied needed darkness during certain hours. Sarah set her coffee down on her desk and pulled up the overnight reports on her computer screen. Something was wrong. The alert log showed a breach in Habitat 7. Sarah's heart beat faster. Habitat 7 housed the apex stalkers. She quickly read through the details. One of the cubs had disappeared during the night shift. The night supervisor had searched for 2 hours before logging it as missing. Before Sarah could call for backup, Vrix entered the room. Vrix was a Xanthari, an insectoid species with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Vrix's translator device spoke in a high, nervous voice. "Dr. Chen, you have seen the report, yes? The cub is loose. We must evacuate the section immediately." Sarah shook her head. "The cub is only 3 months old. It's not dangerous yet." Vrix's whole body trembled. "Not dangerous? Apex stalkers have killed entire research teams. They are the most feared predators in 7-star systems. Even the cubs have claws that can cut through metal." Sarah pulled up the security footage. She watched the small form of the cub squeezing through a ventilation gap. The gap was only 8 inches wide. The engineers had said nothing could fit through there. They were wrong. "Look at this," Sarah said, pointing at the screen. The cub didn't break out. It squeezed through. "That means it's curious, not aggressive. It's exploring." Vrix backed away from the screen. "I do not understand how you humans can be so calm about such things." "Every instinct in my body tells me to run," Sarah understood. Vrix's species had evolved as prey animals. Their homeworld had predators that hunted in packs. Every Xanthari carried the genetic memory of being hunted. Looking at an apex stalker, even a baby one, triggered every fear response in their bodies. Another figure appeared in the doorway. Kelrath was a tall, herbivorous species with gray skin and large eyes on the sides of his head. He could see almost all the way around himself. It helped his ancestors watch for danger. "The station commander wants a full report," Kelrath said. His voice was deeper than Vrix's, but just as worried. "He wants to know how we plan to recapture the cub." Sarah stood up. "I'll find it. You two monitor from the control room." "Dr. Chen, please reconsider," Kelrath said. "We should call the containment team. They have stun weapons and protective gear." Sarah grabbed her equipment scanner. "The containment team will scare the cub. A scared predator is a dangerous predator. I'll be fine." She left the control room before they could argue more. Sarah walked through the predator wing slowly. She checked each room. The scanner in her hand would detect the cub's heat signature. Apex stalkers ran hot. Their body temperature was usually around 105 degrees. Sarah checked the equipment storage room. Nothing. She checked the environmental control station. Nothing. She moved toward the specimen preparation area. This room had high ceilings and lots of pipes overhead. The night crew used it to prepare food for the larger predators. Sarah stepped inside. The lights were off. She reached for the switch. Something warm and heavy dropped onto her back. Sarah gasped. 6 points of pressure dug through her uniform. Claws. The cub had landed on her with all 4 feet. Sarah felt the weight settle. The cub was heavier than she expected. At least 40 pounds. Its body pressed against her spine. For a moment, Sarah didn't move. Her training kicked in. Rule 1 with predators: never make sudden movements. Rule 2: assess the situation before reacting. The claws were touching her skin through the fabric, but they hadn't pierced it. The cub wasn't attacking. It was holding on. Sarah felt vibrations against her back. A low rumbling sound. The cub was purring. "Okay," Sarah said softly. "Okay, little one. I'm not going to hurt you." She slowly reached back with one hand. Her fingers found the cub's head. It was larger than she expected, with a broad skull and small ears. Sarah gently scratched behind one ear. The purring grew louder. Her radio crackled to life. Vrix's panicked voice came through. "Dr. Chen, your vital signs just spiked. What is happening?" "I found the cub," Sarah said calmly. It's on my back, silence on the radio. Then Kelrath's voice. Dr. Chen, please repeat that. The cub jumped onto my back. It's clinging to me. I'm fine. You're not fine. Vrix's voice was almost a shriek. You have an apex stalker on your body. Its claws can cut through your spine. Sarah kept scratching the cub's head. Its claws are retracted. Look at my video feed. Sarah's uniform had a small camera on the shoulder. Vrix and Kelrath could see everything from the control room. Sarah slowly turned so the camera could capture the cub's face. Large golden eyes stared into the lens. The cub's mouth was closed. No teeth showing. Its ears were forward, not back. All signs of a relaxed, curious animal. It's not aggressive, Sarah said. I think it's cold. Feel how it's pressing against me? Apex stalkers came from a hot jungle planet. Kepler Station kept the habitats warm, but the corridors were cooler. The cub had probably gotten chilled during its nighttime exploration. When it found Sarah, it found warmth. What are you going to do? Kelrath asked. Sarah considered her options. She could try to remove the cub, but that might upset it. She could walk it back to its habitat. But the mother might be aggressive if she smelled fear on Sarah. Or she could do something that would seem crazy to any non-human. I'm going to finish my shift, Sarah said. What? Both aliens shouted at once. The cub is calm. I'm calm. If I try to force it off, it might panic and actually hurt me. Better to let it stay until it decides to leave on its own. Dr. Chen, this is highly irregular, Kelrath said. I must report this to the commander. Go ahead, Sarah said. She started walking slowly toward her lab. The cub adjusted its grip slightly but didn't let go. Log it as a behavioral study. We've never had this much peaceful contact with a juvenile apex stalker before. This is valuable research. Sarah reached her lab and carefully sat down at her desk. The cub shifted its weight but remained firmly attached. Sarah pulled up her daily task list on the computer. She had habitat inspections to complete, feeding schedules to update, and genetic samples to analyze. All of it could be done with a 40-pound predator on her back. She picked up her coffee mug. It had gone cold, but she drank it anyway. The cub watched her with bright, intelligent eyes. Sarah had studied apex stalkers for 2 years. She had read every paper, watched every video, and memorized every behavioral pattern. But this was different. This was real contact. This was trust. The cub made a small chirping sound. Sarah smiled. Yeah, I know. This is weird for both of us. She got to work. Her shift had just begun, and she had a long day ahead of her. Somewhere in the station, her colleagues were probably calling her insane. Let them. Sarah knew something they didn't. Sometimes the most dangerous creatures just needed someone brave enough to see past the claws. 2 hours into her shift, Sarah's back was starting to ache. The cub had not moved. It stayed firmly attached, its claws hooked into her uniform. Sarah had completed her morning reports and updated the feeding schedules. Every movement took longer with the extra weight, but she managed. The door to her lab opened. Station Commander Zeril entered. He was a Zentari, a species that looked like tall, thin bears covered in blue-gray fur. His face could show emotions, and right now he looked deeply unhappy. Dr. Chen, he said. His voice was formal and cold. I have received several reports about your current situation. Sarah turned in her chair slowly. The cub's head lifted, watching the commander with those golden eyes. Gerald took a step backward. Commander, Sarah said, as you can see, the missing cub has been located. Yes, located on your back. This is completely unacceptable. Station protocols clearly state that direct contact with apex predators requires protective equipment and backup personnel. Sarah nodded. Under normal circumstances, yes. But this situation is unique. The cub approached me voluntarily. It has not shown any aggressive behavior. Forcing it off could traumatize it and damage months of socialization work. Gerald's ears flattened against his head. You are risking your life for a research animal. I'm conducting valuable research, Sarah corrected. No one has ever had this kind of peaceful, extended contact with an apex stalker. We're learning things right now that could change how the galaxy understands this species. The commander was quiet for a moment. His eyes went to the cub. The small predator tilted its head, curious. Then it made that chirping sound again. Gerald's ears lifted slightly. I was not aware they could make that sound, he said quietly. Neither was anyone else, Sarah replied. That's my point. We don't know as much as we think we do. Gerald sighed. Fine, continue your shift. But I want medical personnel on standby. And if that creature shows even the slightest sign of aggression, you will remove it immediately. Understood? Understood, Commander. After Zero left, Sarah stood up carefully. She needed to check the habitats in person. The computer monitors only told part of the story. She had to walk through the predator wing and inspect each enclosure. Usually this took about an hour. Today it would take longer. Sarah walked slowly through the corridors. The cub moved with her, adjusting its grip whenever she turned or bent down. She stopped at the first habitat. Inside, a pair of razor wolves paced back and forth. They were predators from a desert planet with silver fur and teeth like knives. When they saw Sarah, they came to the glass. Then they saw the cub on her back. Both wolves lowered their heads and backed away. Interesting, Sarah said softly. She made a note on her tablet. The razor wolves recognized the apex stalker as a superior predator, even though it was just a baby. She moved to the next habitat. This one held a spike bear, a massive creature with bony plates growing from its shoulders. The bear looked at Sarah, then at the cub. It made a huffing sound and turned away, clearly not interested in any trouble. Sarah continued her rounds. Each predator species reacted to the cub, some with fear, some with respect, some with curiosity. The cub watched them all with bright eyes. It was learning, Sarah realized. Young predators learned by watching. This cub was getting a free education in galactic predator behavior. By mid-morning, Sarah's shoulders were burning. The constant weight was taking its toll. She returned to her lab and tried to stretch. The cub shifted, giving her a little more room. It seemed to understand that Sarah was uncomfortable. Vrix appeared at the door but refused to enter. Dr. Chen, the Galactic Science Network has picked up the story. You are being broadcast across 7 star systems. Sarah looked up. What? I may have mentioned your situation on my personal channel. It has become very popular. Billions of beings are watching the live feed from your camera. Sarah felt her face get hot. Vrix, you didn't. I did. This is historic. A human carrying an apex stalker like it is a pet. The prey species are horrified. The predator species are fascinated. Everyone wants to understand how you are still alive. Sarah rubbed her temples. The cub nuzzled against her hair. Great, so now I'm a galactic circus act. You are a symbol, Vrix said. You are showing the galaxy that humans are different. You are brave in ways we cannot understand. I'm not brave, Sarah said. I'm just doing my job, but that wasn't entirely true. Sarah knew she was taking a risk. Apex stalkers were dangerous. Even the cubs had killed people before. But Sarah had studied animal behavior long before she came to space. She grew up on Earth on a farm. She had raised orphaned foxes, nursed injured hawks, and once spent 3 days winning the trust of a feral dog. She understood predators. They weren't monsters. They were animals with needs and instincts. If you respected those instincts, you could work with them. Lunchtime came. Sarah opened her food container. She had brought a sandwich and some fruit. The cub's nose twitched. It leaned forward, sniffing the food. Sarah tore off a small piece of chicken from her sandwich and held it up. The cub sniffed it carefully, then turned away. Not interested? Sarah asked. She checked her notes. Apex stalker cubs usually started eating solid food at 2 months. This cub was 3 months old. It should be eating meat. But maybe it only wanted fresh meat, not processed human food. Sarah ate her lunch slowly. The cub watched everything she did. When she drank from her water bottle, the cub's eyes followed the movement. When she wiped her mouth, the cub tilted its head. It was studying her just as much as she was studying it. Kelrath's voice came through her radio. Dr. Chen, I have a question. Go ahead, Sarah said. Why are humans able to do this? My species would have died from fear by now. Vrix would have fled immediately. But you act as if having a predator on your back is normal. Sarah thought about it. Humans evolved as both predators and prey. We hunted, but we were also hunted. We learned to read animal behavior because our survival depended on it. We also learned to form bonds with other species. Thousands of years ago, humans and wolves became partners. We turned wolves into dogs. We made friends with cats, horses, birds, even bears in some cases. It's in our nature to try to connect with other living things. Even things that can kill you? Kelrath asked. Especially things that can kill us, Sarah said, because understanding them makes us safer. Fear is useful, but knowledge is better. The afternoon stretched ahead. Sarah had more work to do. She needed to analyze genetic samples from the previous week. This required careful work with delicate equipment. She sat at her lab bench and pulled up the microscope. The cub's head appeared over her shoulder, watching the screen with interest. "See that?" Sarah said, pointing at the DNA sequence. "That's what makes you special. That's what makes you an apex stalker." The cub chirped. Sarah smiled. She continued her work, explaining each step out loud. Maybe the cub didn't understand. Maybe it didn't care. But Sarah had an audience of billions watching through her camera. She might as well make it educational. Hours passed. Sarah's back screamed in pain. Her neck was stiff. Her shoulders felt like they were on fire. But the cub remained calm and content. It had stopped purring, but it still held on firmly. Sarah began to wonder if it would ever let go. Then the emergency alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. A mechanical voice echoed through the station. "Containment breach in Aquatic Section 3. All personnel report to emergency stations." Sarah's heart sank. The aquatic section was on the other side of the station. If there was a breach, those animals would die within minutes. She grabbed her emergency kit and ran toward the door. The cub tightened its grip but didn't let go. Sarah ran through the corridors with 40 pounds of predator on her back. She didn't have time to worry about it. Lives were at stake. She just hoped the cub could hold on. Sarah ran through the station corridors. Her boots pounded against the metal floor. Behind her, she heard Vrix and Kelrath shouting, but she didn't stop. The emergency alarm was still blaring. Every second counted. She reached the aquatic section and pushed through the doors. Water was everywhere. It covered the floor in a growing pool. The room smelled like salt and chemicals. 3 large tanks were flashing red warning lights. Their life support systems had failed. Dr. Yenna, the aquatic specialist, was frantically working on the main control panel. She was a delphine, an amphibious species with blue-green skin and webbed fingers. She looked up when Sarah entered. "Sarah, thank the stars. I need help moving the specimens to the backup tanks. The main system crashed and I can't restart it." Sarah didn't waste time asking questions. She grabbed an empty transport container and moved to the first tank. Inside, dozens of bioluminescent filter feeders floated in distress. They were delicate creatures from a deep ocean world. Without proper filtration, they would die within 30 minutes. Sarah scooped them into the container carefully. The cub on her back shifted its weight but held firm. She could feel its claws digging in slightly as she moved quickly. She carried the container to a backup tank across the room. Water sloshed over the sides. She poured the creatures into their temporary home and ran back for more. "There are 3 tanks that need to be emptied," Yenna said. She was carrying her own containers, moving as fast as possible. "The backup generator will keep the emergency tanks running, but we need to move everyone first." Sarah nodded. She filled another container. Her arms burned. Her back was in agony. The cub's weight made everything harder. But she pushed through the pain. These animals depended on her. She made trip after trip. Each time she bent down to scoop up specimens, the cub adjusted perfectly. Each time she stood up, it shifted its weight to help her balance. It was like the cub understood what she was trying to do. On her 5th trip, Sarah had to climb a ladder. The backup tanks were on an upper level. She looked at the ladder and took a deep breath. She started climbing. The cub's claws dug in harder, holding tight. Sarah felt the creature's muscles tense. It was working to keep them both stable. "Good job, little one," Sarah whispered. "Just hold on." She reached the top and carefully poured the specimens into their new home. Then she climbed back down. Her legs were shaking. Sweat ran down her face. But there were still 2 more tanks to empty. Kelrath appeared in the doorway. His large eyes were wide with shock. "Dr. Chen, you are climbing ladders with that creature on your back?" "No time to talk," Sarah said. She grabbed another empty container. "Either help or get out of the way." Kelrath hesitated for only a moment. Then he grabbed a container and joined them. Even though he was terrified of predators, he was still a scientist. The animals came first. The 3 of them worked together. Sarah and Yenna handled the delicate filter feeders. Kelrath moved the larger, hardier species. They worked in synchronized silence, each person knowing exactly what needed to be done. 20 minutes later, the last specimen was safe in a backup tank. Sarah collapsed against a wall. Her whole body was shaking from exhaustion. The cub finally relaxed its grip slightly. It had been holding on with extra strength during the emergency. Yenna sat down on the wet floor. "That was too close. We almost lost everything." "What happened?" Sarah asked. "System overload." "The main computer tried to update during active use. It crashed 3 systems at once." Yenna looked at Sarah, then at the cub. Is that creature going to be a permanent fixture now? Sarah laughed tiredly. I hope not. My back is killing me. She stood up slowly. The crisis was over, but her shift wasn't. She still had 3 more hours of work. Sarah walked back toward the predator wing. Each step was painful. The cub seemed heavier now, or maybe she was just tired. When she reached her lab, she found Commander Zeril waiting for her. He wasn't alone. A dozen other staff members were there too. They all stared at Sarah and the cub. Dr. Chen, the commander said. His voice was different now, softer. I watched your camera feed during the emergency. That was an impressive, Sarah shrugged. Just doing my job. With a predator on your back, Cyril added. You climbed a ladder, you ran. You carried heavy loads, all while that creature held on to you. Do you understand how remarkable that is? Sarah looked at the cub's reflection in a nearby monitor. The small predator looked tired too. Its eyes were half closed. It helped me, Sarah said. It adjusted its weight. It held on tighter when I needed stability. It worked with me. The room was silent. Everyone was processing what that meant. Apex stalkers weren't supposed to cooperate. They were supposed to be mindless killing machines. But this cub had actively helped Sarah during a crisis. Vrick stepped forward. His translator device spoke carefully. Dr. Chen, the galactic science community is requesting a formal study. They want to understand this bond. They want to know if it can be replicated. It's not a bond, Sarah said. It's trust. The cub trusts me. I trust it, that's all. That is everything, Kelrath said quietly. My species has studied apex stalkers for 50 years. We have never achieved trust. Humans have been in space for less than a decade, and you accomplished this on your first try. The galaxy wants to know how. Sarah was too tired to explain. She just wanted to sit down. She moved to her chair and carefully lowered herself into it. The cub shifted, getting comfortable again. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. Dr. Chen? Yenna's voice was gentle. Maybe you should try to remove it now. You've carried it for almost 10 hours. Your body needs rest. Sarah reached back and touched the cub's head. She scratched behind its ear like before. The cub made that chirping sound. Sarah smiled. Not yet. We're not done. She pulled up her final reports on the computer. She had data to enter, observations to log, and schedules to update. The work was boring but necessary. Sarah typed slowly, her fingers clumsy with exhaustion. The cub watched the screen. Its head rested on Sarah's shoulder now. She could feel it breathing slow and steady. The vibrations of its purr had returned. It was content. Sarah wondered what would happen when her shift ended. Would the cub let go? Would it want to return to its mother? Or had something changed between them? She didn't have answers. She just knew that right now in this moment they were okay. An hour passed. Then another. Sarah's vision was starting to blur. She had been awake since early morning. Her body was shutting down. She needed rest. But first she needed to check on the cub's mother. The adult apex stalker had been alone all day. She must be worried about her baby. Sarah stood up one more time. Her legs almost gave out, but she steadied herself. I need to go to Habitat 7, she announced. The room erupted in protests. Everyone started talking at once. It was too dangerous. She was too tired. The mother would attack. Sarah held up her hand for silence. The mother needs to see that her cub is safe. If I don't show her, she'll become aggressive. That's worse for everyone. Commander Zeril stepped forward. Then at least let security come with you. Sarah shook her head. Armed security will make her defensive. I'll go alone. With the cub, Vrix added nervously. With the cub, Sarah confirmed. She walked toward Habitat 7. Her colleagues followed at a safe distance. They gathered in the observation room, watching through the reinforced glass. Sarah stopped at the Habitat door. She took a deep breath. Then she pressed the entry code. The door opened. Sarah stepped inside. The habitat was designed to look like a jungle. Trees grew from the floor. Vines hung from the ceiling. Artificial sunlight streamed through gaps in the canopy. And there in the center was the mother. She was massive, 600 pounds of pure muscle and predatory grace. Her fur was dark with golden stripes. Her claws were the size of Sarah's fingers. Her eyes were the same golden color as her cub's, but older and much more dangerous. The mother looked up. She saw Sarah. Then she saw the cub on Sarah's back. Sarah knelt down slowly. She made herself as small as possible, non-threatening, submissive. The cub chirped loudly. The mother's ears swiveled forward. She stood up and walked toward them. In the observation room, Sarah heard someone gasp. She didn't look back. She kept her eyes down, watching the mother's feet. The huge predator came closer. Sarah could smell her now. A wild, musky scent. The smell of a real apex predator. The mother sniffed Sarah's hair. Her breath was hot against Sarah's skin. Sarah stayed perfectly still. Then the mother moved to the cub. She sniffed her baby carefully, checking for injuries. The cub chirped again, a happy sound. The mother made a deep rumbling noise in her chest. Then she did something no one expected. She licked Sarah's face. Her tongue was rough like sandpaper. It was a grooming behavior. Mothers groomed their cubs. Pack members groomed each other. The mother was accepting Sarah as part of her pack. Sarah slowly lifted her head. She looked into the mother's golden eyes. The huge predator stared back. There was intelligence there, understanding. The mother knew Sarah had kept her cub safe. That mattered. Sarah carefully stood up. The cub remained on her back. The mother watched but didn't stop her. Sarah turned and walked toward the door. The mother followed for a few steps, then stopped. She sat down and continued watching. Sarah exited the habitat. The door closed behind her. She stood in the corridor, trembling. That had been the most dangerous thing she had ever done. But it worked. The mother trusted her. The news spread faster than light. Within an hour of Sarah entering the mother's habitat, every major news network in 7 star systems was broadcasting her story. The human who walked with predators, the woman who carried death on her back and lived, the scientist who made the impossible look easy. Sarah sat in her lab trying to ignore the attention. Her computer screen showed message after message from researchers, universities, and media outlets. Everyone wanted to interview her. Everyone wanted to know her secret. Sarah deleted most of the messages. She didn't have a secret. She just understood animals. Vrix entered the lab, his forearms carrying data tablets. Dr. Chen, the response from the galactic community is unprecedented. I have compiled some interesting statistics. I'm not sure I want to hear this, Sarah said. Too bad. You need to know. Vrix set down the tablets. 53 billion beings watched your habitat entry. That is more viewers than the last 3 Galactic Council elections combined. The prey species forums are having heated debates about predator intelligence. Several universities have requested permission to send research teams here. And 3 different species have nominated you for the Interspecies Cooperation Award. Sarah rubbed her temples. The cub shifted on her back, getting more comfortable. Vrix, I just want to finish my shift and go home. You cannot go home. You are famous now. This is bigger than you understand. Vrix's compound eyes reflected the screen light. For 10,000 years, the galaxy has feared apex stalkers. They have been called monsters, demons, killing machines. You proved that wrong in a single day. You showed us that even the most dangerous creatures can be understood, can be trusted. This changes everything. Sarah was quiet for a moment. She hadn't thought about it that way. She was just trying to do her job, trying to help an animal. But Vrix was right. The galaxy was watching, and what they saw was changing minds. Kelrath appeared at the door. Dr. Chen, there is someone here to see you. Dr. Meraxis from the Xenobiology Institute. She says it is urgent. An older Zentari woman entered the lab. She had silver-gray fur and intelligent eyes. She carried herself with authority. Dr. Chen, I am Dr. Meraxis. I have studied predator behavior for 40 years. May I observe? Sarah gestured to a chair. Of course. Dr. Meraxis sat down slowly, her eyes never leaving the cub. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. The cub is completely relaxed. Look at its breathing pattern. Look at its ear position. It feels safe with you. We've been together for almost 11 hours now, Sarah said. 11 hours. Most sentient beings cannot stay in the presence of an apex stalker for 11 minutes without panic. Dr. Meraxis leaned forward. Tell me, Dr. Chen, what is your species' background with predators? Sarah thought about Earth. Humans lived alongside predators for millions of years. We learned to coexist with them. Sometimes we competed with them for food. Sometimes we worked together. We domesticated wolves into dogs about 30,000 years ago. We learned to read their body language, understand their vocalizations, and respect their space. That knowledge is part of our culture now. Fascinating. My species, the Zentari, were never prey animals. We were omnivores who avoided conflict, but we never learned to truly understand predators. We feared them from a distance. Dr. Maraxis pulled out a recording device. Would you mind if I document this? For educational purposes? Go ahead, Sarah said. For the next hour, Dr. Maraxis asked questions and took notes. She wanted to know everything. How did the cub behave? What sounds did it make? How did Sarah interpret its mood? What made her confident it wouldn't attack? Sarah answered each question carefully. She explained about body language, about the difference between predatory behavior and defensive behavior. She talked about trust and respect. She demonstrated how the cub responded to gentle touch versus sudden movements. You are teaching the galaxy, Dr. Maraxis said softly. Every scientist watching your feed is learning. The prey species are learning that predators are not mindless monsters. The predator species are learning that cooperation is possible. You are building bridges between worlds. Sarah felt the weight of those words. She hadn't asked for this responsibility. She was just a xenobiologist doing her job. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the best teachers were the ones who just did what came naturally to them. The station's clock showed that Sarah had 45 minutes left in her shift. Her body was beyond exhausted. Every muscle ached. Her back felt like it was on fire. But she had made it this far. She could finish. Dr. Maraxis stood up. I will leave you to your work. But Dr. Chen, one more question. What will you do when your shift ends? Sarah looked at the cub's reflection in her monitor. I don't know. I guess we'll find out together. After Dr. Maraxis left, Sarah tried to focus on her final tasks. She had end-of-shift reports to complete. She had to log all her observations from the day. She had to prepare notes for the night shift about the cub's status, but her hands were shaking. She typed slowly, making mistakes and having to correct them. The cub seemed to notice her exhaustion. It made a soft sound, almost concerned. Sarah reached back and patted its head. I'm okay, little one. Just tired. The cub rubbed its face against her hand. The gesture was so gentle, so trusting. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. She was too tired for emotions, but they came anyway. This small creature had chosen her. Out of everyone on the station, it had picked Sarah to trust. That meant something. Commander Zaral appeared at her door again. Dr. Chen, the Galactic Science Council has sent an official message. They want to establish a new research program here. They want to study human-predator interactions. They are offering substantial funding. Sarah nodded tiredly. That's good. We could use more resources. They also want you to lead the program. Sarah looked up sharply. Me, I'm just a field researcher. I'm not qualified to lead a major program. You are the most qualified person in the galaxy, Zaral said. You did what no one else could do. That makes you the expert. Sarah didn't know what to say. She had come to Kepler Station for a quiet research job. She wanted to study animals, write papers, and live a simple life. Now she was being offered the chance to change galactic science forever. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, but the galaxy's waiting for your answer. After the commander left, Sarah sat in silence. The cub was still on her back, warm and alive. She thought about what Dr. Maraxis had said. She was building bridges. She was teaching the galaxy something new. Maybe that was worth the exhaustion, worth the pain, worth the attention. Her terminal beeped. A message from her parents on Earth. They had seen the news. They were worried but proud. Her mother wrote, You always did have a way with animals. Remember when you brought home that injured hawk? Your father said it would never survive, but you proved him wrong. Looks like you're still proving people wrong. Sarah smiled. She remembered that hawk. She had nursed it back to health over 3 months. Everyone said it was a waste of time, but when the hawk finally flew away, healed and strong, Sarah had felt something profound. She had made a difference. She had helped something survive. That was why she became a scientist, not for fame or awards. Just to help. Just to understand. Just to make a difference. The clock showed 15 minutes left in her shift. Sarah started her final round of the predator wing. She needed to check each habitat one last time. She walked slowly, the cub heavy on her back. Her legs felt like lead. Her shoulders were numb. At each habitat she stopped and observed. The razor wolves were sleeping. The spike bear was eating. The shadow cats were playing. Everything was normal. Everything was safe. Sarah made her final notes. She returned to her lab. 10 minutes left. Sarah sat down at her desk and closed her eyes. Just for a moment. Just to rest, the cub chirped softly. Sarah opened her eyes. The small predator was looking at her with those golden eyes. There was something in that gaze. Understanding, maybe? Or gratitude. Sarah reached back and scratched behind its ear one more time. We did good today, little one. We showed them that fear isn't the only option. We showed them that understanding is possible, the cub purred. The sound was so peaceful, so content. Sarah felt her heart swell. Despite everything, despite the pain and exhaustion, this had been a good day. This had been important. The clock hit the end of her shift. 12 hours had passed since the cub first jumped onto her back. 12 hours of carrying a predator. 12 hours of defying every instinct that the galaxy held dear. 12 hours of proving that humans were different. Sarah took a deep breath. Okay, little one. It's time. Time to go back to your mom. She stood up slowly. Her legs almost buckled, but she caught herself. She walked toward Habitat 7 one last time. The observation room was empty now. Everyone had gone home or to their own shifts. It was just Sarah and the cub. She entered the habitat. The mother was waiting. She looked up when Sarah entered, her golden eyes alert. Sarah walked to the center of the habitat and knelt down. Time to go home, Sarah whispered. She reached back and gently tried to lift the cub's front paws. For a moment, the claws tightened. The cub didn't want to let go. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. She understood. Sarah woke up in the medical bay. She had collapsed right outside Habitat 7. The medical staff said her body had finally given up after running on pure determination for 12 hours. They gave her pain medication, muscle relaxants, and strict orders to rest for 3 days. She slept for 16 hours straight. When she finally woke up properly, the medical bay was full of flowers and gifts. Cards from colleagues. Messages from scientists across the galaxy. Even a formal letter from the Galactic Council thanking her for her contribution to interspecies understanding. Dr. Yenna sat in a chair beside her bed. Welcome back to the land of the living. Sarah tried to sit up and winced. Her back was covered in bandages. How bad is it? Bruising, mostly. The cub's claws left some shallow marks, but nothing serious. You'll be sore for a week, maybe 2, but you'll heal completely. Yenna handed her a cup of water. You're incredibly lucky. And incredibly stubborn. Sarah drank the water slowly. How's the cub? Back with its mother. Both are healthy. The mother has been remarkably calm since you returned her baby. It's like she knows you helped. Yenna smiled. You've become quite famous, you know. The galaxy can't stop talking about you. Sarah groaned. I was afraid of that. Over the next few days, Sarah recovered in the medical bay. She watched the news feeds and read the articles. The story had spread everywhere. Some species praised her courage. Others questioned her sanity. The prey species were divided. Some saw hope in what she did. Others saw it as proof that humans were dangerously reckless. The predator species had a different reaction. Many of them were impressed. A few even reached out, offering to share their own knowledge about predator behavior. For the first time in galactic history, prey and predator species were talking to each other openly about fear, understanding, and coexistence. Vrix visited every day. He brought Sarah her favorite Earth tea and updates from the lab. The station has received over 2,000 applications from scientists who want to work here. Everyone wants to study with you. You are inspiring a whole new generation of researchers. Kelrath also visited. He brought his daughter, a young Kelrath who was studying xenobiology. The girl was shy, but she asked Sarah questions about how to overcome fear. My species has always been afraid of predators, she said. But watching you made me think that maybe fear doesn't have to control us. Maybe we can learn instead. Sarah smiled. Fear is natural. It keeps us safe, but so does understanding. The key is finding the balance. On the 3rd day, Commander Zeril came to see her. He looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for him. Dr. Chen, I owe you an apology. When I first saw that cub on your back, I thought you were being foolish. I wanted to order you to remove it immediately. But you were right. What you did was valuable, important. It changed minds across the galaxy. Thank you, Commander. I've been authorized to offer you the position of Director of Predator Studies. You would have full control over the program, significant funding, and your choice of staff. The Galactic Council wants you to establish a new research facility dedicated to understanding predator species through peaceful interaction. Sarah thought about it. It was a huge opportunity, a chance to really make a difference. But it was also overwhelming. Can I think about it? Of course. Take your time. After he left, Sarah lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Her whole life had changed in 12 hours. She had gone from an unknown researcher to a galactic symbol. It was a lot to process. On the fourth day, the medical staff finally released her. Sarah walked back to her quarters slowly. Her back still hurt, but the pain was manageable. She unpacked her things and tried to return to normal life. But normal life felt different now. On her fifth day back, Sarah returned to work. She entered the predator wing nervously. Would the cub remember her? Would the mother still accept her presence? Sarah walked to Habitat 7 and looked through the observation window. The cub was bigger now. It had grown noticeably in just a few days. It was playing with a piece of rope, pouncing and rolling like any baby animal. The mother watched from a resting platform, calm and content. Sarah entered the habitat slowly. She had permission from the commander, but she was still cautious. The mother looked up. Her golden eyes met Sarah's. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the cub noticed Sarah. It stopped playing. Its ears swiveled forward. It chirped loudly and ran toward her. Sarah knelt down. The cub didn't try to climb on her back this time. Instead, it rubbed against her side, purring loudly. Sarah laughed and scratched behind its ear. The cub made happy sounds, clearly delighted to see her. The mother approached slowly. She sniffed Sarah carefully, then made that deep rumbling sound in her chest. It was approval. Recognition. The mother remembered Sarah as the one who protected her baby. Sarah stayed in the habitat for an hour. She played with the cub, watched it interact with its mother, and made observations. The cub was developing normally. It was learning to hunt through play. Its coordination was improving. Everything was as it should be, but there was something different too. The cub kept coming back to Sarah. It would play for a while, then run to her for attention. It would practice stalking, then show her its technique. It was treating her like a pack member, like family. Over the following weeks, Sarah continued her research. She visited the habitat every day. The cub grew rapidly. It learned to hunt small prey animals. It learned to communicate with its mother through vocalizations and body language, and it always greeted Sarah with that same happy chirp. Sarah also started the new Predator Studies program. She hired researchers from different species. She established protocols for safe interaction. She created educational materials to teach the galaxy about predator behavior. The work was exhausting but fulfilling. 3 months after that memorable shift, Sarah gave her first major presentation to the Galactic Science Council. She stood in front of representatives from 200 different species and explained her findings. Predators are not monsters, she said. They are intelligent beings with complex social structures. They feel fear, joy, curiosity, and affection. They can form bonds with other species if given the chance. What happened between me and the apex stalker cub was not magic or luck. It was the result of patience, respect, and understanding. She showed videos of the cub playing, learning, and growing. She showed data on its development, its behavior patterns, its relationship with its mother. She explained how the cub had adapted to having Sarah in its life, and how that adaptation was healthy and normal. The galaxy has feared predators for thousands of years, Sarah continued. That fear has prevented us from truly understanding them. But fear and understanding cannot exist in the same space. We must choose, and I believe we should choose understanding. The council chamber was silent. Then slowly applause started. It grew louder and louder until the entire chamber was standing and clapping. Sarah felt tears in her eyes.
She had done it.
She had changed minds. After the presentation, dozens of representatives approached her. They wanted to establish similar programs on their homeworlds. They wanted to learn from her methods. They wanted to bridge the gap between prey and predator species. Dr. Maraxis found Sarah in the crowd. You have started a revolution, Dr. Chen. The galaxy will never look at predators the same way again. Sarah smiled tiredly. I just carried a cub for 12 hours. You carried hope, Dr. Maraxis corrected. You showed us that the impossible was possible. That is worth more than you know. 6 months after the incident, Sarah stood in Habitat 7 and watched the cub. It was almost fully grown now. Soon it would be moved to an adult habitat, but for now it was still young enough to play. The cub saw Sarah and bounded over. It was too big to climb on her back now, but it still greeted her with enthusiasm. Sarah hugged its huge head and laughed as it knocked her over gently. You've gotten strong. she said, scratching behind its ear. Your mom must be so proud. The mother watched from her platform. She made that rumbling sound. Over the months, Sarah had learned what it meant. It was contentment, happiness. The mother was telling Sarah that everything was good. Sarah stood up and dusted herself off. The cub bumped against her leg, then ran back to play with a piece of equipment. Sarah watched it go, feeling a sense of peace. This was why she had become a scientist. This was why she had taken that risk 6 months ago. Not for fame. Not for recognition. But for moments like this. Moments where fear turned into understanding. Moments where two different species looked at each other and saw not enemies, but family. Brix entered the habitat. Still cautious, but no longer terrified. Dr. Chen, you have another interview request. This time from the Earth Broadcasting Network. They want to do a special about your work, Sarah sighed. Tell them I'll think about it. You always say that, I know, Sarah smiled. But I mean it this time. She took one last look at the cub. It was stalking a toy, practicing its hunting skills. In a few years, it would be a fully grown apex stalker, one of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. But Sarah knew the truth. It wasn't just a predator. It was an individual. It had personality, preferences, and feelings.